The great falling away. Do you have an idea what that is? I've got some thoughts on it that I would like to share with you now. What is the great falling away? I believe that Paul gives us a clue. He says, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Seducing spirits is another name for the spirit of the Antichrist and the religious demon or the religious spirit. And what do? They present false doctrine. And so I believe that this great falling away is the result of people having received false doctrine. And I'll be a little more specific. Christians having received false doctrine. And what is the false doctrine that has produced such a great falling away? See, the falling away doesn't necessarily mean that people are not in church. The falling away has actually happened in church. That because of false doctrine that people continue to spread, there's a falling away, even though the people have not necessarily physically departed, even though that's happening. People are leaving the church in droves. But the great falling away is a result of false doctrine. Listening to false doctrine as it is presented by seducing spirits. The religious demon, the religious spirit, the spirit of the Antichrist covers it all. And what is Antichrist about this falling away? Well, the devil has come forth with a very clever trick of a false doctrine that tells people they choose and accept Jesus and that they should ask him to come into their hearts. Now, my experience has been, this is what happens. And it's classic. Someone called me up last night with this very problem. Ended up on my website, pamshepard.com, reading my case summaries and looking at them and saying, oh wow, this is me. This is describing me. What happens is that they go to church, or maybe not. Maybe someone comes to them and says, you must repeat this sinner's prayer. They repeat it. They ask Jesus to come into their hearts. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. They have blasphemous thoughts, strange body movements, hearing voices, being condemned. And this is how the devil does it. He causes them first to think that they're saved, and then causes them to believe that they have committed the unpardonable sin. So then here comes the demon, the spirit of fear in, and produces a kind of paranoid schizophrenic behavior on top of the voices that they're hearing. And they stay in demonic torment because the devil has caused them to believe a lie. As long as they believe that they're saved while this is going on, the more torment they will have. How did this all begin? Well, it began with a man by the name of Charles Finney. Charles Finney introduced into Christendom the false doctrine that man chooses God. And Finney lived to be 83 years old, and he lived from 1792 to 1875. He was a fiery New York preacher, and his impact on church traditions and practices has been profound. I want you to imagine this now. Think about the Billy Graham crusades and the long lines of people that are marching forward to the altar to accept Jesus and to ask Jesus into their hearts. Think about that happening over and over and over again for a couple of 100 years. That's a great falling away. That is a great falling away. And how did the church come to implement this across the board? Because they were looking to count converts. They believed that if they could actually visualize an individual rising out of their pew seat and walking forward to shake the preacher's hand, that would be an indication that they got saved. And they could write that down and add a number up. Well, we had 52 converts today. That's how it all began. But this is what actually happens. The body consists of doorways, gateways. Actually, it's in the body, but it's really a part of the soul. There are gateways. They're called chakras. There are 7 of them. One in the top of the head, the third eye, which is here. One here in the throat. Then there's the heart chakra. Then there's the navel. Then there's the sexual organs. And there's the anus. There are 7. And over these chakras stand deities. A demon who is in control of all these chakras. I'd rather not say a demon. I'd more say a fallen angel. The Hindus call this being Isha. Now, Isha governs the heart chakra. There are different entities, a different entity for each chakra. I won't go into that now. Maybe I'll do a teaching on that. But this is what happens. When you ask Jesus to come into your heart, Isha opens the door to your heart chakra in your soul. And religious demons flood in. It's not just one. They flood in to that heart chakra. And they stay there. And they cause that person to manifest religiosity in one form or another. Now, I'm not saying that they get this door open every time. But the people I see, what ends up happening with those who don't seem to be demonically depressed is that there's never any fruit to their conversion. They go to church all the time. They do religious things, but it's like the scriptures say, that it's a form of godliness that has no power. And so these demons, under the control of the God with a small g, the deity called Isha, when you get all caught up in an altered state of consciousness is when it really works. When you get into that altered state of consciousness, then Isha is able to open your heart chakra. Once these beings come in, they come in based upon the fact that you have invited them. And once they're in, they are not coming out until you uninvite them. Now, if you have been subjected to any of the kind of torment of which I speak, blasphemous thoughts in particular, fear that you have committed the unpardonable sin, constant torment, hearing voices, showing no fruit at all, staying in a state of fear, living a religious life on the outside, but feeling shame, guilt, and condemnation constantly, this is a false conversion. And we must get Isha out of the way, your chakra closed. And we must get you to disavow the fake Jesus. If you need help with this, this is what I do. Call me, 518-477-5759. I'll put the number down there. And also, if you want to know more about the chakras, go to any of my blogs that I will also list below and use the category chakras or a category I accept Jesus or false conversion, and search with that, and all the articles that I have written will come up. And then if you want a book, I'll have the books down there too. But this is the last video on the theme false conversion, and let's see if the Lord will have me to come back, because I will not come back until he leads. So I'm glad you've stopped by Pam's place one more time.